Hello, my name is Pewpewchewchew, and welcome to the afternoon portion of our Day 2 Mortain operation. So, same three units on the map. The only difference this time is that since we've done quite a lot of damage to the enemy forces, first and foremost, I assigned some fighter support to our Panzer division. But you notice that the two Allied infantry divisions are starting to run low on ammo and fuel, which are abstracted values on the campaign map, but it really comes into play once we're inside the tactical map, when bullets and ammunition are kept in track. So far, for ourselves, everything's been pretty good. We haven't really suffered any damages by that. So we're playing on the Romagmi map first and foremost. This time, you'll see that our initial Panther company has been brought down to just 2 units, 1 command crew and 1 Panther A. So going by the regular naming conventions, I presume that the command tank is actually tracked, and the Panther A is well back in its original standard. I actually noticed that we have quite a lot of tanks. One thing that I actually checked up was that inside the manual, any damages sustained by the companies are not replaced. This is all we have to play with for the duration of the operation, but also the duration of the campaign, which could be many battles long. Starting off, let's get into the troop deployment. I just want to move everything up into that little corner of the map. Only the dark squares are where the enemy can possibly be, so it's only really that corner of the map. Everything else is just neutral territory or territory owned by us. So with that being said, I have a feeling that we can probably press the offense here. All right. Well, moving forwards, we're at the very end of the deployment phase, so I'm just trying to shift our units around a little bit more. I plan on sweeping from the north here, and I've positioned our tracked Panther facing the road so that we can take a few shots from there. And I just shift my units around by a bit. There we go. So now the battle has started. Since we've already engaged the enemy, we've already been past the initial engagement and the follow-up. The start of almost every single battle now would be quite hectic. You'll see that there are tons of enemy troops on this little road here, so I've decided to drop a few bombardment orders onto them. Decided to move my infantry here back a little bit because they're taking quite a lot of fire. I noticed that my Panther was actually on the ambush stage, which probably wasn't the best setting, so I decided to lock it back in to the attack or rather defend mode so that it'll open up on the road. For this operation, I brought up 2 of our deployable MG42s. It looks like they're doing quite a good job at pinning down the enemy out inside the middle of that field. The majority of Allied tanks are stationed on the left side of the map. The tricky thing that we'll have to do right here is that we kind of have to fight the AI a little bit by giving our Panther the most idiot-proof route into the battlefield. We want to keep the frontal armor facing the enemy Stewart and Sherman over there, while just keeping the side armor in check. Panthers are fairly vulnerable from the side. From taking armor values from other games, even a Stewart tank could kill a Panther if it got a perfect shot on the side of it. It looks like we were lucky there. The first shot onto that Panther was either an HE round or it just simply missed slightly. I move up some of my infantry right here so that we can get into the fight a little sooner. It looks like the allies are trying to press through the ravine and into the rear of our columns right here. they've got quite a lot of pinned down infantry inside that little ravine. For the most part, we simply don't have enough manpower to conduct a offensive counterattack or something like that inside that region. Our troops up here are fairly committed. Without bringing in mobile transports, it's rather hard inside this game to redeploy units to other places, even if they are only like 500 meters away. Even less than that. For the most part, it looks like we're shutting down the Allied advance. It's not really an advance, more or less a defense, but the point being is that the morale is close to breaking, and if I were to guess, oh, there we go, it broke right there. Because the enemy had controlled one or more exit points onto the map, essentially victory locations near the edge of the map, even though we were able to win completely on this map, the enemy still was able to flee onto the next map sector. You'll see that they lost there, and then the wounded brigade is now back inside their little starting or supply sector. Moving on to our second map, our enemy is starting to run out of fuel and ammunition. If they were to conduct an offensive, they would have to use mortars to suppress our troops down. Being that their troops are low on ammunition, they're going to have less mortars onto the field. We're essentially going to redeploy our troops inside the same general positions as last time. I've decided to skip the long process of deploying this time. For the most part, I feel like the combat AI really needs to have some set out, pre-planned engagement routines plotted down, because for the last two fights on this map, the AI has always been moving upwards to the central location and then trying to cross this road rather unsuccessfully. But overall, there is an improvement from the last combat mission games. Maybe if I assume that this will be solved inside a patch. As always, it's always, of course, better to play with a human being, and likewise, you don't necessarily play a RTS for the skirmish, now do you? This time I've decided to move that Panzer H a little bit back. I figured that last time it was taking a little too much fire, so if I move that back a little bit, maybe that'll help out by quite a bit. That little bloop you heard in the background was the game client for something else that I'm trying to download. I'm not necessarily sure about how fuel is actually depicted inside the tactical battles. I believe that if you simply don't have fuel, you simply cannot move your tanks, and if you have fuel, then either way you can. One of the deployable things that you can put down is an artillery designation for the troops. You'll see that the allies have access to heavy 105s, 155s, and various other artillery pieces. And you'll see that because I chose to put a large majority of my infantry inside these, or rather this one building, those shells are really taking a toll. I figured that it'd be safe, seeing as hell last time nothing had happened, and the enemies didn't even look like they had mortars, but that was my mistake right here. It looks like we've suffered some really heavy casualties, but overall we have enough reserves to kind of buffer out. Our troops are still, or rather our reserves are still veterans, hardened soldiers, so the troop quality is pretty much the same. With the loss of so many of our troops, our morale is starting to drop by quite a bit. It looks like there's still one troop left inside our command squad, so I decided to move him back into the building just to kind of get a survey of the damage done. Because those Panzer Grenadier units have different various amounts of health, we need to check on how many men did we actually lose. The odd thing is that sometimes the AI will keep the platoon from the last engagement, and you'll be able to notice the casualties fairly quickly. Sometimes, regularly infantry squads should be made up of 6 or more people. To tell, you can kind of know, you can kind of read the little side info panel. It'll usually say how many people are inside the squad. After a while, you'll notice that the infantry squads of the United States become much lower. They become 4-man squads. Starting out with 6 troops, they slowly whittle down until they're only 3 or 4 men each. Actually, I believe the maximum you can have inside a squad is more than 6. But that seems to be the average of what we're seeing. I like that the AI is trying to make one little play right here, although the AI doesn't like to switch up his routine very much. I feel like one of the biggest things the AI can learn to do is simply say, from a program-wise point of view, I think the AI should be able to say, our assault had taken, oh, I don't know, about twice as many casualties as the other opponent. Perhaps a change of strategy is needed. But then again, of course, assaults do cost the attacker quite a bit. So maybe it should say check if the losses are acceptable. If they aren't, check if there is an alternate AI plan set for the map. And if there isn't, well then it can continue. But if there is, maybe that would be the best way to program the AI for this particular little bit. You'll see that it tries to make another crossing into the Grand Mile over here. And of course that's stalled pretty well by our infantry and tank. In the end, both of the forces ran out of impetus, so both of the troops were out of morale, causing what is essentially a truce between the two factions. With that, we move on to our final battle of the day on Hill 134, or 314. It looks like we suffered 2 squad losses. We can replace that, and then we can switch our second platoon to the original one that we were using to conserve men, as well as to just kind of give a buffer to our squads. We're going to deploy the 3 stags that we had originally brought with us once again. I feel like those artillery pieces are quite useful. I am downloading a game that is made by Blizzard, and it is a strategy game. Yes, just saying. It's rather remarkable how they did it. How you don't actually need to download the entire thing to be able to start playing it. But anyways, deployment starts. And immediately, like with the other battles, we're immediately put into the fight. I noticed that there is one AT gun right here. AT guns are fairly lethal if they are hidden. However, when revealed, they are more or less just nozzles. Since that AT gun does have a good view of that farmstead, I figured to move our infantry back, seeing as there's no way to close assault that position from here, and no suppressing fire would be very helpful. Down here inside the church, one of our squads, which I've positioned here for security purposes, are being engaged by quite a lot of enemy troops. In the north we have a small force meant to move up along the road. We encountered some resistance up here later on during the last mission. And it looks like that AT gun is actually doing a little bit of damage, but it looks like in the middle of the map we mowed down one enemy squad. Looking from the casualties from that little middle bunch, a one squad does actually have more than 6 troops. Maybe 8 is the regular amount for a reinforced squad, and 10 is the maximum, is what I'd assume. I have a feeling we're going to lose the bottom right here with the one squadron holding up inside this little church. Or maybe not. Maybe it is 6. The combat AI is doing a little bit better of a job of moving up its troops inside the other close combat games. You normally see the AI moving up its troops individually, or rather just a one by one is what I've noticed. Inside this, it is a little more aggressive in its movements, but it definitely pays for it in its lack of plans for is what I've seen on that Mortain map. For this one, it's been fairly well done. For example, right here, while I was playing, my main concern was that AT gun taking out our stugs. It's in a fairly good position where we can't flank it, and because I didn't bring any artillery, we can't destroy it indirectly. In addition, it seems to be moving up onto my flanks. It's definitely advancing down here. It's pushing up in places where I don't have troops, and it's actually abandoned its position in the north. And bear in mind that I'm advancing rather cautiously up there, so it's pulling off quite a little few tricks, but it's not enough to just kind of render my forces useless. And over here you see that the stugs have a little bit of a pathing issue. I can't actually get them around through those hedgerows all that easily. Inside this little corner of the map, I am rather surprised by the efficiency of this one Panzer Grenadier unit. It's just mowing down all the allied infantry hiding inside this clump of forest. I decided to move it into the back portion of the building, simply because that'll kind of stop the enemy from throwing nades inside and just clearing the room that way. I originally thought that was a tank being blown up or something, because normally that's what it would play for the sound. But it is alright. Amazingly, all 4 of the people inside this squad are alive. I mean, that is pretty amazing. near the end of the battle here, we eliminated one more bar squad, and I believe the casualties range from roughly 2 infantry squads and 1 bar squad down here. So these 4 men have taken out quite a lot of people. I really wanted to take out all of those infantrymen right here inside the center of the map, but the only thing I have is this 1 stug, and my infantry up here are already tired. To answer that one person who's commented on the last video, I'm not particularly sure, but from the looks of it, mechanized transport like half-tracks are invaluable on these larger maps. On smaller maps, I'm not too sure, but infantry are fatigued rather easily, so the use of transports are fairly helpful. What is in question is that whether or not jeeps and Kuba wagons and Opel Blitz trucks and just regular, or whatever you call American trucks really, whether or not those are rather helpful, because they don't necessarily protect from small arms fire is my concern, but they do provide cheap transport. In addition, you can tow AT guns on them, so it is a nice way of making a makeshift offensive weapon by simply towing around, say, 2-centimeter flaks, or maybe infantry howitzers, or maybe even AT guns if you can set them up in time.
Befehl ausgeführt. Der Feind hat einen Waffenstillstand angeboten.
At the end of the day, we take out quite a few people on this map and gain momentum on the field by capturing 3 different victory locations. I'll see you people on the next turn. My name is Pewpewchewchew, and be sure to like and subscribe if you'd like the series. Bye bye.